Now I will begin with my own journey back to love. I have endured many types of abuse starting at a very young age, whether that be physical, emotional, trauma induced, or abuse of my own self. They have all played pretty prevalent throughout my life. When I was around 4 years old, my parents were divorced. By the age of 7, my mother passed away from a brain aneurysm, and my father was battling severe drug addictions that played heavily in him having a lot of emotional and physical abuse traits playing out in the physical relationships that followed after my mother. Let me just say that instability was not something that was going to be able to raise me and my sister. So for that reason, we then had to go and stay with my mother's sister, her husband, and their 4 children thereafter. From there, I was put into this household and I endured a lot of physical, emotional, and mental abuse. And I'm sure that there's not a single person that will view this video that in one way or another has not dealt with their own kind of trauma. For this is something that we all endure throughout our journey. So, as I grew up in these environments, I found myself lacking severely in self respect. Dealing with the physical, emotional, and mental abuse in this household, it wasn't very easy for me to figure out who it was that Nicole was and how it was that Nicole was going to be happy. So, from this point of my journey forward, I started a journey of self abuse. When I mean self abuse, I mean that I started drawing in things that were not healthy for me, experiencing things that were not good for me. I originally started with self-physical hurt. That's how I found the first, followed by eating to excess to create this barrier of weight that would work as a shield around my heart for many years to come. I apologize if I'm sounding kind of skippy. This is raw. This is real. I'm probably going to air this just as it is because in life, we're not going to be perfectly spoken. This is who I am. I'm trying to share off of my notes here. And I'm very nervous on sharing this because this is something that I haven't just shared to anybody. My journey has been a kind of a private journey in sharing with those to help them. But to do it like this is about as raw as you can get. So I hope that you just can laugh along with me, feel along with me, and understand along with me, as I would love for this channel to be able to do as well for you. So when I talk about physical hurt, I talk about cutting disorders that I've had, abuse towards myself with not eating healthy, constantly locked away in my room in an essence of being able to protect myself from external factors that were playing in that household that were not healthy for me. Meanwhile, I was being my own abuser at the same right. So as I'm hiding from outside of abuse, I am also abusing myself with these bad emotional factors that came to play into my self-abuse journey that I had for a very long time. So as I stepped into my early adulthood, I found myself running in toward relationships that were not meant for me. And I'm sure that we can all relate to this as well. Relationships that only existed as sexual in nature that carried no real substance. Yearning to want to just be, loved by somebody, belong to something, and realizing that in the end, we're chasing something that isn't working because we're not meant for it to work. They were relationships that whether they then again followed emotional, physical, mental abuse issues, and that were only sexual in nature, but at that time, in that moment, I felt deserving. Though that deserving gratification was very short-lived, it still was something that I was yearning for and not understanding the true essence of self-abuse that it actually was. So as I reflect on this, I also has been shown me in many ways in which that I just continued a cycle of self-abuse. I became like a magnet, drawing in all things that were harmful to me, whether that be people, experiences, substances, it didn't matter. I became a thrill seeker of all things that inevitably just caused more pain. The thing is I was creating the pain now before others could by drawing it all to me. On a side note, I wanted to make clear, this is not a sad story of a horrible life, but an amazing journey back to self-discovery. For me, learning what it was to work toward anything of real substance didn't even register in my trauma response mind at this time. And what I mean by this is that I was seeking the instant gratification, that I never really took a step back and realized that anything worth doing or having is going to take time and effort. But because of the programmed trauma responses that I was having, that was causing me to react, to misunderstand myself and others. I started to become the consumer of many types of prescriptions. This for me is going to be a very heavy part in which I'm sharing with you, not necessarily what other people have externally done to me, but the journey and what I have started to do to myself is really what plays relevant in this story for me. So, as I was saying, I became the consumer of many types of prescriptions. Though I was diagnosed as someone who was the victim of childhood trauma, I now became victim to medically induced drug addict, as a doctor had told me. But at the end of the day, I still was seeking external gratification, guys. Stemming from all this fear based programming I became all too familiar with. Knowing that it was all bad for me, it still was something I knew. It was still something I understood. Wanting it to be so different, how? The how was the big question. So what I did was I stuck with the familiar instead at this time. So I soon found myself chasing heavier, non-prescribed drugs at this point in time. I believed I could not be around friends, work, family, or anyone without being numb to substances somehow or another. This right here hits very, very home for me because I have 2 children. And in having those 2 children, I thought at the same time I had to just be the bee's knees, guys. I had to just be perfect all the time. I had to be on it, this, that, and the other. And because of that, I built up so much anxiety that I could not just be me and be enough. And through that, I have shared a lot of these things with my older son. My younger one's a little too young yet to understand, but I've been open with wanting to share this with him because I want him to know that seeking external validation for things only leads to being a magnet for things that you're not going to want to put into yourself moving forward. I hope that made sense. So I'm just going to keep going on. That feeling like you're nothing to anyone, or wanting them to see who you really are. Like, if I'm sober, can I put a smile on? These were a lot of the questions that I dealt with daily when I woke up in the morning. Not that feeling of, oh, I'm so excited for the day, but, oh, am I going to have what I need to be able to be what I thought people needed me to be? And these are all questions that we've all asked ourselves, I'm sure, at one time or another, whether it was abuse of drugs or if it was abuse of self, if it was abuse of sexual relationships, food, it didn't matter. These questions all play relevant to all of them. So I asked, another thing to myself, could I work as hard if I was sober, pretty much? Will they still want me? The pressure to just be accepted by people. And then I realized that if I'm working this hard to be accepted by people, are those people even really good for me? And should they even be in my energy field to begin with? Not saying anything against them. We all have our own tribes. We all have our own people. But to have that much pressure, to be so afraid to go out all the time as yourself, is a very disheartening way to feel and a hard way to ever be able to really love or give what those relationships need, if that's what you're consumed with every day. So how I learned this is because if I have to mask who I really am to be around these people, then who I am as a person regardless won't work for them. And I'm now okay with that. We are who we are, guys, and trying desperately to be someone we are not is exhausting and just unattainable. Say with me now, close your eyes if you have to, and say, I am someone of substance. I am love. I am light. I am grateful for my experiences. I am who I am that I am. And no one else can ever be that which I am. Embrace your being, and those meant to be a part of your energy will flow to you naturally. Now, as I was not a victim of circumstance, because I see now this was all essential in helping me to work through all of these traumas to be a beacon of light for all others finding their way back. You guys are going to see throughout this my hiccups throughout my story, but what you will not miss is the genuine words and experiences that I have endured. No longer will I be afraid. No longer do I want you guys to be afraid of your inner light, as it is our compass that will always lead you back to love. And moving forward, but with this great gift of light, it is crucial to learn boundaries, something that I am constantly learning daily and that I really had a wake up call needing to learn, because I started realizing that I was drawing people into me that were just taking from me energetically, that weren't there to uplift me. And if we don't have people who are going to add to you, a real friend is never going to be afraid to tell you the truth if it's going to help you. Constructive criticism is okay. Lifting each other up is okay. Enabling or taking is not okay. So with that moving forward, there are boundaries that we have to learn in how to protect our beautiful energy. Unfortunately, not everyone will nurture your light. So you must, like I am always learning to do, is stay mindful to your intuition and what, if you call it, the gut feeling. As an exercise to use, do you ask yourself, do you feel yourself pulling back in body language wise from a person or a situation, or do you feel a pull into the person or situation? See, if we don't hear our own inner guidance, how can we ever expect others to hear us? It all begins with you. So if I find myself kind of pulling back from a situation, that is my own energy field trying to protect me and being like, no, this isn't good. That's that gut feeling. That is what our marker, that is our staple, that is what we have to listen to when others on the outside are trying to deter us. I am here today in my knowing that I was never broken, rather learning how to find all of my pieces that are meant for me together. And what I mean by that is that we all have puzzle pieces that somehow or another are so different, but they interlock. And as we start to pay attention, we start to see the bigger picture. And that bigger picture is that I'm not meant to be you and you're not meant to be me. But a piece of me can add to you and a piece of you can add to me. And that's how I've learned throughout my life, whether it was hard for me or not, they're all lessons meant to be learned for the better growth of humanity and ourselves. See, it's not about journeying towards someone else. And I try to tell everybody that when they're looking to call in their partner, their twin flame, their soulmate, that it all has to happen within. Because as we journey through this life to ourselves, externally will we draw in that absolute love of a lifetime. It's about journeying back to your heart-centered existence of love for self. My journey of runner-chaser was me running from my true self and chasing externally for internal fulfillment. I am very much living a life of student-teacher simultaneously, as we all are, and always will be. But what I am keeping mindful of every day is the self-love journey isn't a quick process, and that seeking external instant gratification will always only lead to long-term dissatisfaction. When we instantly get something to make us feel good, everybody can agree to this, it only lasts for a minute, and then there's always backlash after of that went away. That's what keeps people chasing that dragon. And it doesn't necessarily have to even mean drugs. It can mean bad relationships, eating, and so on, like I've mentioned. Take time to enjoy this lifelong process of self-discovery, you guys, because it is a beautiful journey even in its hardest moments. There are so many keys just waiting to unlock even more of who your soul truly is. I am regularly unlocking more of myself every day. I am grateful for this shield that I had for myself, and I release it back into the universe as I work to stay in the place of love. This is not to say this is always going to be easy, but anything worth anything takes constant effort. Staying mindful in moments when you want to lose your mind is super important to always getting back on track. And in my heart-centered meditation that I have to the video before this, that also gives you some keys and some tools that you can use for yourself in those moments of chaos, so that way you can get centered. Overcoming any battle takes time. My battle with self-abuse has been an ongoing struggle for me, but it doesn't have to be what is me. If we can, to overcome these battles in time, effort, love, and support from like-minded tribes like yourselves around you and me. This journey is more beautiful together than apart. Although we journey as individuals, we are all meant to journey together. Don't be afraid to share who you are. Just feel into the right people that are meant to be around you. Beautiful souls, I thank you for joining me. And if you would like to like, subscribe, and share for more of this content, and comment down below on how this resonates. And if you are in need of any guidance or just someone to listen, I am here for you, beautiful souls. I thank you for your time. Namaste.